we've got the feedback of Saskia to do. We've got the feedback of Sarah to do. We've got Thibaut here first with a nice quick case first. And then we've got one more live case to do after all that, which is Peter Jan, who you've not met yet, who you'll meet shortly. And then we probably can come to feedback of that and then close. So Thibaut's case, this is it, okay? This one.
Yeah, maybe that one.
Okay. You can, of course. Yeah. So tell us what happened, Thibaut.
So it was a IFO positive patient. So should I just skip to the part of the polyp or more like the looping?
We'll spend maybe a little. We got 10 minutes, right? I'll start the clock. So I'd spend 3 or 4 minutes with the looping, and then you can tell me what time to go to, and I'll go there.
I have some 11:43.
Okay.
So it was a patient with an IFO, how do you say it? IFO positive patient, very obese. And so he wanted to try without sedation. That worked out, but yeah, when I arrived at the splenic flexure or a little bit before, he asked sedation. So we gave him sedation then, and at 11:43, it must be about there or a little bit more, on the splenic flexure there. So that's where he asked for sedation, or a little bit further down, because I saw there that I made a loop, that I made a loop and some bending also. I put on the stiffener then to pass the splenic flexure, and I pulled back. And afterwards, it was better for the patient.
And in very fat people, even though you may have straightened the scope or nearly straightened the scope, because of, I think, fat pads or something in the mesentery, sometimes you can't completely straighten the scope. And this buckling, we call that a buckle. And the interesting thing is that the buckle is just not evident on the AP view.
Yeah,
it's really quite dramatic.
You really don't see it, do you? Yeah.
You don't see it there.
He also has IBS, the patient.
Okay. So there's something else going on, which I'll draw your attention to in a moment. But so my first question to you is: you see a buckle like that, what should you do, Thibaut, or what did you do?
Which one is the buckle? Because I missed the first part yesterday. That's the buckle, right? Pulling back.
So you just pull back and get it as straight as you possibly can. Yeah. And what else? So it never fully straightens, does it?
It really doesn't, does it?
That may be because of his obesity. So you get it as straight as you can, and then what do you do?
Then I could turn him in supine position.
Well,
supine position. To pass the splenic flexure, I mean.
Yes. So why will the supine help, Thibaut?
I don't know. That's why what I heard.
You've got the usual splenic flexure deflection, angulation, should I say, which isn't that bad on the lateral film. I mean, show him, David, at the top there. So at the top, there's that angle there is not at all tight. So there's not much resistance at the splenic flexure. It looks like there is on the AP, but on the lateral, it's a very broad sweep. It's not a tight angle. And the second problem is this bowing laterally. And I would have put my money on that if you'd have compressed that lateral bowing by applying lateral pressure and straightened the scope, stiffened, and put a bit of clockwise torque on, you would have got around that splenic flexure with much less problem and with much less pain, because the pain's coming from the bowing, the buckle, and the buckle's there largely because of the bowing, and that's there because he's so fat.
So you need to do all things together. It's worth pointing out that if you're pushing in here and you're applying clockwise torque and you've got angulation at the tip, which you have, your tip will rotate as you apply the clockwise torque. And therefore you have to reposition your tip as you're doing that in a dynamic fashion. So what I mean by that is you're pushing in and you're advancing the more clockwise torque, you tend to have to use your left tip, in this case, to straighten the scope out because it's rotating away from you. So you need your left tip at the same time. And if you do all three, you'll go around. But this problem here, which is the lateral bowing in the obese patients, we see increasingly, don't we? Or we recognize
it.
Yeah.
And guys, thank you. There was one more thing in this case which I'd like to just quickly show. Where was
34.
So that's a fantastic short bit of learning. So there's a little blink thing going on here with Thibaut. So he came around. I think it wasn't great prep, was it? It wasn't. No, what made you notice this?
He was really bad prepped. Lots of stool everywhere. But I saw just like a chunk bitten out of a fold just past the hepatic flexure, and it was an IFOP positive patient. But just there I saw a chunk bitten out of the fold.
That's a great description. That's a very, very good description. But and your blink, you said, was this is
my
surgery.
Blink was it's probably deeper invasion because of the depression or the chunk bitten out of the fold. That was for me a little bit. Yeah. Also, it's maybe deeper the invasion than.
Well, what are you describing here? So what is this?
So this is the polyp and then the demarcation zone in the center with a depression of the fold also to me.
But then you said something, so you totally redeemed yourself in my eyes when you said something great to me after that. So we were looking at it together and wait a minute, well, we get a good view, bit of trauma from the cap, a bit annoying, but when we get it and maybe get it a bit underwater, do we somewhere here maybe? It's maybe just a bit before this. So you see it nicely here. And then again, we get a better view of it maybe here. Yeah, here's probably a nice view of the best view we can get without the bit of the traumatized bit. We did have a look around the back there as well. And Thibaut, what was your analysis of that? So this is an overt lesion, and therefore we're going to describe the JNET classification of the demarcation zone.
So for me, it's JNET 2B because it's a demarcation zone, but it's regularly irregular.
Yeah.
But my blink reflex was more because of the depression and the big chunk bitten out of the fold. That my blink reflex was more of this probably for surgery more than for endoscopic resection.
But I think actually the way we should talk about it is the blink is, there's a problem here, and then the analysis here. That's the thing for the endoscopic. Good. John, do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great spot. And it's to do with topography of the bowel, David. And the thing is, you need adequate distension. So the view you've got there is great for looking at the demarcation zone, yeah? But when you get back, you need to distend the bowel out. And when you do that, as you say, there's a chunk missing. There's a bite out of it. It's a great spot. So
David was asking you whether you agree that this is for surgery, not for endoscopic therapy.
Yes.
So we biopsy that, you two.
Do you think it's for surgery, John?
Yes.
It's interesting that in Glasgow we had the opposite thing, where you were saying it was for the. Anyway, let's park that discussion because whatever we've analysed it, we've gone JNET 2B, therefore we think that we're going to make an endoscopic attempt. Of course, that's not meant to preclude the patient from anything else.
Well, I think the reason I say that, David, is because the surface pit pattern is, as you described, there's a lovely demarcation zone and the surface pit pattern on top looks very, very irregular. My concern is if you look at the topography of the bowel and how much depth going down, tethering is, the divot is going to be down into the muscle there. So even though it looks fine on the top, I think there will be deep invasion, David.
We can go on this all day. I'd like to, but let's not, because I really need to strongly resist it. So, there's definitely two views on that. So thanks, Thibaut. I think we're done with yours.